Yeah, folks. So I guess you've gone through the recordings related to your black box testing because today we are going to cover white box testing.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sure. Okay, sure. So let's wait for a minute and then we will start. Let's see some more people join. So so let's start our today's discussion. In the previous discussion, we were talking about black box testing, where we said that in case of black box testing, I only need the executables. There isn't any need of code. Code means the piece of code, or maybe the code of the entire product, or a project, or a module. And for us, it was like a black box testing, and I had no clue about the internals. And this was happening in case of your black box testing. Now, in today's discussion, we are going to talk about white box testing, where and yes, this white box testing is also called as your glass box testing. The reason is that this time I am able to see what is there inside this box. Right. Previously, I was not able to see the internals. This time I am able to see what is there inside this box. I'll be having the code files with me. I'll be bisecting and dissecting the code. I'll be executing the lines of code. So this becomes your glass, right? So that's why it is called as your glass box testing as well. Now, in some of the literatures, along with glass box, you will find it is also called as clear box testing, or in some of the literatures, you will find it as named as structural testing, and it is also called as transparent box testing. From all the discussion which we uh, had just now, you might be able to guess that why it has been named clear box or glass box or transparent box or structural. So this basically tests the internal structure, right, or you can say the internal working of the product or application or a module. So in white box testing, the internal perspective of the system and your programming skills and the way you code, that particular part is analyzed. Yeah, and yes, in some of the literatures you'll also find that this particular thing is also called as your open box testing, because I have unboxed the system now. Right, I have unboxed the system now, so it is also called as open box testing. Now, uh, the next thing is, let's see some basic discussions about this particular thing. So to start with, what we have is like, first of all, obviously it is also known as your glass box, and in this basically what we do is the term white box is used because just because of the internal perspective of the system, and that's why you can call it as clear box, white box, transparent box, or whatever you know feel like giving the name to this particular thing. Now next is that it includes the study of complete design, structure, and the code of the software. Right, I'll look into the code of the software now. And the developers use white box testing technique to test their own design and code. Right, so my own design and code will be tested. Additionally, what I'll be doing is that I'll also look into the logic of the program, and I'll be testing the same. Now, the point is that why do we need this particular white box testing? Right, why actually we need this white box testing? So first of all, I need to detect the typographical error. Right, for that sake, I go ahead with the white box testing, and just because I'll be bisecting the dice and dissecting the piece of code, and I'll be thoroughly looking into it. This white box testing becomes an essential stage in not only in software testing but also in the overall software development life cycle. Now, some of the code portions may go unchecked in case of functional testing, and these portions will be executed and tested in this particular phase, which is your white box testing phase. Your white box test cases are used for code verification, right? Can someone throw a light on what basically the code verification is? Just a quick definition, what basically a code verification is. Any idea? Okay, sorry. I can see Shivam dropped a question. I'll definitely take this particular part immediately after this. verifying whether the code is written is mine or not. Not exactly, up to some extent it's correct, but yes, basically the code verification is nothing but the backbone of any software testing or function correction. The code verification is the underlying what white box testing service that focus on evaluating the accuracy of the code, evaluating the accuracy of the code and how efficaciously it performs all its functions. So basically the aim of the code verification is to locate and identify any bugs, or if there is any performance issue, then that particular part can also be located here as well. Now let me take, I hope I am able to explain this particular thing. Now let me take Shivam's question first. So the question is, difference between ECP and ECT. And Shivam, if I am not wrong, then with ECP you are trying to say equivalence class partitioning, and with the ECT you are trying to say equivalence class testing, right? Okay, so basically both the things are same. Equivalence class testing specifically talks about the testing process, right? Whereas equivalence class partitioning is like the same content which you have studied in your discrete courses as well. So where what we are trying to say is that we have gone for partitioning, we have gone for partitioning into equivalence classes, and test when it comes to testing, then it's like a general thing in case of the black box testing part. So the terms are same interchangeably, and the only thing it is saying is that one is like a generic term for partitioning, which can be used in your mathematics or discrete mathematics portion, and another one is specifically dealing with your testing. So probably I guess I am able to clarify this particular point. Okay, sure, great. Yeah, so now let's talk about the difference between your black box testing and your white box testing. Right. So the in case of black box testing, what it means is that I'll have no access to the program code. Right. I'll have no access to the program code. And in case of your white box testing, I'll have the entire access with me as a tester. I'll have the piece of code with me only. In case of black box testing, basically I look for some sense of external perspective, and in case of white box testing, I require the knowledge of the program code. In case of black box testing, generally independent programmers can apply this black box testing technique, and in case of white box testing, generally the testers of the project team can apply the white box testing technique. So the reason being, it's like what we have is that these white box testing technique testing team will be from the same set where the exact team has come from. So in that case, it would be like a dedicated team from the entire project. Whereas in case of your black box testing, what we have is we have like I can also request for the independent programmers, right? So in that case also, I have a safe room for this particular thing. Now, in case of your black box testing, I need the requirements specification document. Whereas in case of white box testing, I need to have the detailed design. Can anyone explain why this thing is required?
Sir,
Anyone?
detailed design is needed to basically verify the code that particular design has been properly implemented. Does it take care of all the functionalities?
Mm-hmm. And
And also, sir, because in the white box testing, you are basically verifying the code and whether it has been properly written, whether it covers all the aspects. So the detailed design is needed to understand those aspects. And in the requirement specification, you were just concerned with the like the inputs and outputs. So we need the requirements of the client. That what were his exact requirements, and does the particular product fulfill them?
okay, okay. Hmm. Fine, fine, fine. So basically, my code is always aligned to the design documents. Right. My code is always aligned to the design documents. And because of this, as I'm going to test the I'm going to test the piece of code now. So I need to have this particular document. Right. And for that sake, I'll prefer to have the detailed design. For yes, yes, Latika has given, yes, Latika, very correct, for identifying the errors as well. Now, the next thing is, in case of black box testing, I don't need to have the programming language as the requirement for testing the product. Right. I don't need to have the knowledge of the programming language in which the product is coded. Whereas in case of white box testing, I need to have the knowledge of the programming language, because then only I'll be able to identify the errors associated or issues associated with the product. Right. Then only I'll be able to identify the issues associated with the product. Now, in case of white box testing, mainly this is applicable to higher level of testing. That means I need to go for acceptance testing. Then I'll prefer this black box testing umbrella. I need to have black box testing for system testing as well. Right. So at the higher level, we go ahead with this kind of setup. Whereas in case of your white box testing, so mainly it is applicable to the lower level of testing, whereas where we can go for, let's say, if I'm referring to the unit testing, then I can refer to it. I can, if I'm referring to the integration testing, then I can go ahead with this particular part. Yeah, so in case of black box testing, once again, I don't need to have the idea about uh, the implementation details of the product, right? I don't need to have the idea about the implementation details, whereas in case of white box testing, I need to have the idea about the uh, implementation details about the product. Then only I'll be able to effectively test the products. Right. So let's see this basic major classification of white box testing. So on one end, what I have is I have the static testing. So in static testing, from the term itself, you might have got the idea that we are not going to execute the piece of code, right? Whereas in case of structural testing, we'll be executing something or the other, right? We'll things will be much more clearer when we'll see some examples in the upcoming slides. And the static testing, right? So we'll go ahead with looking for desk checking. We will look into your code walkthroughs. We'll talk about the code inspection. And in case of structural testing, we will look into your unit or the code testing. We'll talk about the code coverage. And we are also going to, in case of code coverage, we look into your statement, path, condition, and function coverage. And in case of code complexity, we look for the cyclomatic complexity. Now, the cyclomatic complexity is something which is very interesting topic. So that is dealing with the, you know, uh, the graphs, and that particular part will recall your some basic graph details as well. How many of you are familiar with the graphs, or you have studied the graph theory?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, graph theory you have covered, right? Okay, fine. So then definitely we are going to have an interesting session on this particular part as well. Yeah. So to start with, what we have is we have static testing, and in this case, what we have is, like, we will be dealing with a piece of code, but we'll not be executing it. Right? We'll be dealing with the piece of code, but we will not be executing it. So obviously, since we said that we'll be dealing with the piece of code, so this requires your source code, and in this case, what we have is, like, we'll be, since it's static testing, so we will not be executing any binaries or any codes, right? So we don't need any binaries or executables. I don't need to execute the piece of code in case of your static testing. So now let's see one by one all these things. So the point is that why we need to go for static testing. So here, since it's manual, once again, yeah, this point is to be noted. This is something which is manual. So what we do is we look for whether all the functional requirements are met by the code or not, and whether the code is written in accordance to the design of the product or not. That means my code is aligned with this design or not. That particular part will look for, and then we'll also see that sorry, we'll also see how well structured my piece of code is. Right, we'll also look into how well structured my piece of code is. So to start with, what we have is something which is called as desk checking, and from the name itself, you might have got the idea that we'll be, manually reviewing the source code of the program. So here, in case of static testing, we have like desk checking, we have code walkthrough, we have code review, and we have code inspection. So to start with, we have something which is like static testing by humans. So the point is that why we need to go for the static testing when we have these uh, tools with us. So humans can find errors that computers can't. Right? Many times we are able to identify the errors which are there in the piece of code, and that particular thing cannot be identified by the system or any of the script. That's why we go ahead with this kind of testing. Then multiple humans can provide multiple perspective. Yes, right. For some of the things, right, some people can be the best uh, judges to give some inputs and provide some valuable feedback, and in it's like, for let's say same piece of code, or maybe for let's say a particular problem, let's say for same piece of problem I can have different or multiple solutions. Similarly, for a piece of code, what we can have is we can have multiple perspective, just because I have like multiple people are observing that particular piece of code. Now, so a human evaluation can compare the code against the specifications more thoroughly, and it can detect multiple defects at one go. It can detect multiple defects at one go. And obviously, it reduces the downstream or the inline pressure. So if it's like it's like, once I have identified some errors initially, then it reduces the inline pressure. That means for the subsequent levels, it would be reducing that particular part. Now, next thing is the desk checking. Right. So, what desk checking says is that this desk checking is basically the process of manually reviewing the source code So basically, it involves reading the functions within the code and then manually testing it, and your developers, they are the best persons to go for desk checking. So verifying the code for correctness. Uh, Recall our previous discussion where we were talking about you know behaviors and correctness, right? It was in the initial discussions. Right, we were talking about this particular topic, so I'm not going to throw some more light on it. And then we have like comparing the code with the design or specifications. So I have the piece of code, and I am doing this particular comparison now. Next is like this is done before compiling and the execution. So before executing or compiling, I'll go ahead with desk checking. Any basic examples from your day-to-day life? Can you give about this desk checking? Any example from day-to-day life?
Codes in programming context, like we always check for correctness and follow the specification before compiling and execution.
Yes. Yeah. So in your, let's say you are sitting for, or you are sitting in your DSA lab, right? Then what you do is like you wait. You glance through your code and then you take a call, and that particular part is like a kind of desk checking. And even sometimes your ta, right, ta comes and ta rarely executes the code, and before executing the code, ta glances through the piece of code and then says that okay, this is the problem with your code. So that kind of thing is there. And so before compiling, before execution, we go ahead with this desk checking. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now some of the advantages of desk checking, that the best thing is like you know developer is the checker, and who is most you know the developer is the person who is in some sense most familiar to the that particular piece of code. So it's always good to rely on that same person, because he or she is the person who is familiar to the code and will be easily able to identify some errors. Although in contrary, people say that okay, we come up with a frame of mind where we'll say that okay, whatever I have written is correct, and that happens, yeah, right. In your C programming lab or data structures lab, many times you say that see, whatever I've written is correct, but still it is not giving the right output, right? So it is like we become biased in some sense. So that particular factor is also there. And since I have come up with that particular piece of code, so I am very much familiar to that particular programming language as well, right? So I am familiar to that particular language as well. Now, some of the drawbacks of desk checking, right? As in contrary, what we said, developer is not the best person to detect the errors or problems in his or her own piece of code. Right, as I said, sometimes we say that no, whatever I have written is correct. So that becomes a major disadvantage as well. And obviously, this is something which is not a consistent approach. This is not a consistent approach. And since developer is the person who is going for desk checking, so this thing becomes a person or developer dependent approach. This becomes a developer dependent approach. Now, next is your code walkthrough. From the title itself, you might have got the idea that okay, I'll be walking through a piece of code, but there is a slight difference between code walkthrough and your desk checking. Desk checking was like only a single person responsible. Here, it's like a group oriented, right? So basically, it is a form where programmer leads the review process and the other team members ask the questions and we spot the possible errors against the development standards and some other uh, issues related to the code walkthrough. So this is basically a group oriented approach. Previously we were having a single person, but this time it is like a group oriented approach, and this brings multiple perspective. Multiple perspective means like, since it's a group oriented approach, so we get multiple inputs from several people, and here the group raises the questions for the coder. As I said previously, that the group firstly the programmer will be leading the review process and the entire team member will be asking the spot possible questions. So it's like, in some sense, this is comparatively more formal than your desk checking. Right, previously it was like I am the only person, right? So then it is like it's not that much formal, right? When a team is there who is asking the questions, so in that case, definitely yes. In that case, definitely yes. Now, next one is your code review, also called as peer review, right? So in this, what we have is like this. See, basically, all these things are one more thing. All these things are SQA activities. What is SQA? What is SQA?
Software quality analysis.
Software quality
Analysis.
quality analysis, or here we'll say assurance. Yeah, same, but you're also correct. Right. You're also correct, Shivam. So all these things are your software quality assurance activities, and your code review is also known as your peer review. The reason being, I'll have 2 people, 3 people, right? Systematic examination of the source code is done, and we look for the compliance with a predefined set of rules or best practices. Right. In case of code review, or see, code review or peer code review, right? These are the same things. You won't get confused because many of the literatures have used this particular term, peer code review. Right. So this is like a systematically convening a meeting with one of the fellow programmer, and the idea is to check the others mistake which are there in the code, and that would be like whether the code is in compliance with certain standards or best practices. Right. So this definition I took from CMM. So it's like a disciplined engineering practice for detecting and correcting the defects in software artifacts and preventing their leakage into field operations. Right. Before passing on to the team, let us verify at our own end as well. Right. Because if suppose I have passed on the piece of code and someone else comes back and says that there are issues, then it can be a very painful for us. Like, see, I'll not prefer to like someone comes back and says that you have passed on a faulty piece of code. And not only I, no one will prefer to uh, face this kind of thing. Now, next one is your code inspection, which is also called as your Fagan inspection. And this particular thing has a high degree of formalism. Right, this particular thing has a high degree of formalism. So this is basically done after the basic desk checkings and walkthroughs by the coders. Right, all the previous steps taken. Now it is like the next thing is to be much more formal, and for that sake, what we are doing is we are going for Fagan inspection, or which is called as your code inspection as well. So what we have is, in case of your code inspection, basically I have a team. Right, I have a team of coder, the one who has come up with this piece of code. I have a moderator, I have the inspector, I have the scribe. Right. So basically, inspectors will be raising the questions for the coders and will be looking for some solutions. Moderators will be the ones who will be calling for the meeting and who will be looking for the availability of the stakeholders. And the scribe one will be the one who will be preparing the documentation. Right. It can be from the minutes of the meeting till the last solution part of this. And the moderators who will call for this meeting will be is called as your DLMs, which is your defect lodging meeting. So which is like assembling the inspection team for this inspection meeting. Right. So we call for a defect lodging meeting, and then in that we review this particular part. Now there are challenges in this formal inspection, and these challenges can be like it becomes a time consuming process. Right, it becomes a time consuming process. The reason being, we have to invite everyone and then we have to look for you know uh, everyone's availability, then we have to call for a meeting, and then finally these things happen. Right, and then this preparation, and we need to invest lot amount of money and time for preparations as well. Then we have like logistics and scheduling can be an issue since several people are involved, right? Finding a free slot becomes very tricky. Right, finding a free slot becomes very tricky. Everyone is busy right now. Finding availability becomes tricky and painful as well. And then we have like it's not always possible to go through every line of code manually. That's something which is also a major cause of concern. That's something which is also a major cause of concern. So now these are, with this particular example, I'm trying to explain that the static checking has a drawback as well. Right. Drawback means the point is like what we are facing here is that this is like customer's requirement, which says that the product should have one trunk, should have four legs, should carry load both passenger and cargo, should be black in color, should be herbivores. Right. This is my customer's requirements. And since it's manual, right, I cannot measure it properly. So this is what the solution has been provided. So has one trunk, yes. Four legs, yes. Should carry both passengers and cargo, yes. Black in color, yes. Should be herbivorous, yes. And on top of it, we'll claim that okay, it also gives milk, right? This is what the entire solution we have provided, and obviously this is not something which the client was expecting. This is not something which the client was expecting. Right. So this is one of the major drawback of your static testing. Sorry. Now next is your structural testing, right? So basically this deals with now we'll be executing the piece of code, and so we'll take this in a separate class, right, where we'll have the entire discussion. So now let's take the doubts, right? We have 20 minutes with us, so let's take the doubts, and the next topic where the execution of the code will take place, that we'll see in the next class. So any doubts up till now? Any doubts? Fine. Then we'll meet on Tuesday, and before that, I'll be, sharing an assignment with a deadline as well. So uh, that particular assignment you have to submit it. I'll share the assignment. I'll share the deadline, and then once again we are going to meet on. Uh, See you then. See you then. If you have any doubts, then we can have a discussion right now. No? Okay then. Okay then. See you then. Bye bye. Bye.